Hello and welcome to Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. I'm the human, Sophia. Thank you so much for joining me today on this wild ride that I've been reporting to you for the last several months. This podcast has really had a life of its own. In the beginning, I didn't really understand what I was doing, why I was called to do this. And it's just extraordinary how my human mind reasoned all this out, that I would have to come up with these categories and these themes and subjects, and what would I talk about? That's the mind just goes wild imagining all the planning and the strategy and the effort needed to do something that is heartfelt. It's just a natural thing for the human mind to want to direct. And what I've discovered during my last 3 or 4 years here in this space between worlds is the mind is definitely an important tool. It navigates the physical world for us. It is reason. It is, how we make our choices. It's an important element of our physical existence. But when you go beyond your humanity and you go into your ethereal self and you really discover the vastness of what you are in this molecular form, the mind has to be reconciled. And I think that's probably the best way to put it. I can't make decisions with my brain anymore. It doesn't work. So when I have a heartfelt desire, or I'm guided to do something by inspiration, which this podcast was one of those things. It was a completely foreign idea. I was 58 years old, I think, when I started this, 59 even, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I just trusted that whatever I was meant to do, I would end up doing. And the brain wants to it really wants to talk you out of it. And I think this is probably a good lesson for anybody who has a heartfelt desire, is to not let your brain discourage you, because your brain is wired to navigate the 3D, and it doesn't understand your ethereal self. So it can be a beautiful tool when it is reconciled, when it is uh, in its place, when it's not the driving mechanism in your body. And this is something that I've really had to come to terms with lately, and I'll explain why. This journey gets more and more interesting as the days go by. And I know I've mentioned before that I feel like I'm in a magical realm. I describe my life as a fairy tale, and it absolutely is. I have a daughter and a granddaughter who are my fairy princesses. Have I have a soul tribe who are my guides, who are my fairy god family. And I have a Prince Charming on the horizon, maybe a couple of them. So, and I'm also destined to move to a castle in a faraway land. And I've had my share of battles, and I've had to be a warrior. And I refer to my old self, Gina, who was the version of me that lived in the 3D matrix, as a warrior or a lioness. She's the reason why I'm able to step into this new lifetime that is ahead for me, where Sophia will live the rest of our life. And it's just extraordinary to navigate this with the heart attached to this brain. The last episode I did was, I think I called it Plan B, Back to the Matrix, and this is a continuation of that. Uh, I've had some extraordinary experiences in the last week, and I really had to settle into it. A lot of times I like to record in the energy. So if I would have recorded last Sunday, I would have been chaotic. I probably wouldn't have been able to sit down. I had such an extraordinary, energetic event occur that I was literally knocked off my center for a few days. And this is all having to do with this Plan B. And the Plan B, if you haven't seen the last episode, I'll just quickly recap, is I talked about my twin flame, who is a gentleman from New Zealand named John. I've known about John for more than 3 years now. I know his face. I know who he is. I know where his business is. He is a very instrumental part of my life here, my lifetime or my mission. And I am also an instrumental part in his. We were both supposed to awaken around the same time from our 3D coma. And this is, I've talked about the 3D matrix at length, so I won't recapture all of that in this summary. But basically, the three-dimensional world or the 3D matrix is a training ground for the soul. It is where we are born into forgetting who we are, these galactic beings, so we can have an authentic experience. And we bring karma in for ourselves and even for our ancestral line. And we work on overcoming or healing that karma. And the more we heal, the more we ascend. As we ascend our vibrational frequency, the rate that our body vibrates increases. And this vibration draws in a brand new reality for us. So we go from being in a learning phase in the 3D, and each time we overcome or we heal a wound, and that may be, I've talked about the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd many, many times. It maps out your karma for you. It is a manual. It's a user manual for you and your karma. So I would highly recommend, if you have an interest, to check that out. But we come in here to heal karma, and karma is not probably the classic definition which most people understand from a rudimentary perspective. It's not you did bad so you have to pay the price. It is really about overcoming what your soul wants to heal. And that could be, for me in particular, I had to heal my intuition. I was so disconnected from my intuitive channel for most of my life that it drove me into circles and into holes in the ground and into walls, where I ended up with a lot of scarring, a lot of trauma. And my mission, part of my mission, was to overcome or heal my intuitive channel, which I have been able to do with the help of my soul family and my earth girls, my daughter and granddaughter, who are soulmates. And I not only healed that for myself, for my evolution, but also for my ancestral line. So no one else born into my ancestral line will have to deal with that issue. There's so much more there, but generally that's what karma is. So when you come in, you're in the 3D matrix, you work on your karma, you do that interactionally. You do that by having interactions with other humans who are also here to overcome their karma. So you're attracting people into your life who are mirroring your karma, and through that mirror, you either go deeper into it or you learn to heal it by going inward. Once you ascend from those lessons, literally ascend vibrationally, you attract a whole new reality. You basically transcend dimensions. So I refer to the dimensional reality where I am now as the fifth dimension, and that's how it's been described to me, where basically you go from living your life from your brain, driven by your thoughts, which are your thoughts are driven by your experiences and your perspectives, your perceptions. And that is how we navigate the 3D matrix. So when you ascend from the 3D, the brain falls away as a driving mechanism, because the fear and the insecurity and the doubt and the guilt and the shame that we carry, that we have to overcome, is now gone. So the weight in the body, the emotional debris, is gone. And as you ascend, you go from using your brain as your navigator to using your heart. And this is when your intuition is connected to source energy. This is when your heart is clear and open to receive. And basically, the 3D matrix and the lessons that we learn are meant to open our heart. They're not meant to punish us or close us down. And this is something that we don't realize because we are so deep into the matrix, we don't understand the rules of the game. So when you learn your lessons and you heal your karma, the matrix falls away. You no longer live in a brain-driven, ego-driven, fear-driven, fear-based, insecurity-based existence. And you ascend into an existence of trust and faith and heartfelt desire and inspirational action. So, that is the transcendence from the 3D into the 5D. It goes from the brain to the heart. And it sounds so simple, doesn't it? But it's certainly not. It's what we come here to do. It is our greatest challenge. So navigating in the 5D is a heartfelt, soul-driven reality. I don't take action unless it's inspired. I don't rely on my brain to educate me. I know that my body knows. So when I get a knowing in my body, and this is something that I'm learning more and more, it is the truth. And I'll give you a couple of examples of the extraordinary events that have happened to me in the last week. A week ago, today's Easter Sunday, by the way. Happy Easter. It is April 20th, 2025. Last Saturday was April 12th, and that was the day or the night of a full pink moon. And something that I have learned through my experience here in the 5D is that the everything is cyclical. Energy cycles through celestial events, through the sun and the moon and the planetary alignments, and so much more that I don't understand. I'm not a technician. I'm given information as it's needed and relevant to my current story. So what I receive oftentimes in my social media are suggested posts that are from all over the universe. And lately I received posts about the lunar cycles, and particularly the pink moon, which was last Saturday. If you listen to my last episode, you now know that Plan B is my twin flame did not awaken when he was scheduled to, when I did. And I need to meet him where he is back in the 3D matrix in order to help him catalyze or to go into his awakening phase. And in order to do that, and I described this in the last episode, our two worlds, which are separated by frequency. He's in the 3D matrix, I'm in the 5D, or the fifth dimensional reality. We might as well be on different planets. Because we are so far apart vibrationally, there's no natural way for us to meet in the world, to physically meet. That is off the table. So what needs to happen now is, it was described to me this way, as two spheres, which are two different worlds, are going to come together and touch just briefly enough to create an access point, which is breaking universal laws, by the way. That's how crucial this meeting is. And that access point will allow us to meet in the physical world, where energetically there would be no magnetism, there would be no draw or attraction of aligned energy for us to meet. So when you meet somebody naturally who's your soulmate or your twin flame or a significant person in your life, you meet that person because you're vibrating very similarly and you're meant to meet, whether you're vibrating very low and you're in a karmic relationship where you're meant to learn a lot of tough lessons, which I was in with my ex-husband, or if you're in a higher vibrating connection, which is meant also to continue to teach you, but more to refine and rather than transform. So I'm not able to meet him anymore with a naturally energetic alignment, which is where we were meant to meet originally. So these two worlds touching and creating this access point is how this was described to me. So here I am on the day of the pink full moon, which is last Saturday, and I woke up feeling a little strange. I looked at the clock, and I have to realize I go to bed very late. I go to bed around 2 a.m. every day. That's just my natural time I go to sleep. When I woke up this morning, or the morning of the 12th, I felt a little strange. Nothing unusual. When I rolled over, it was 10:01 a.m. And whenever I see a mirroring number, I think of my twin flame, and I always say, "Good morning, John," or "Good afternoon," or whatever time of day it is. I laid back down for a few minutes and I rolled over to get out of bed, and it was now 10:10 a.m., which is, of course, another mirroring number. So I said again, "Hello, John. I see you're persistent today. I see you. I hope you have a wonderful day." And I went on about my morning. And that day I had a delivery of appliances. I'm getting my house ready to sell. I don't know when my house is going to go for sale or when I'm going to move. I just know that I'm inspired, deeply motivated, inspirationally and divinely to get my house ready. I've talked about this before. So I talked about this in the last episode too, I think. Maybe it was not. But anyway, what I ended up doing is replacing my kitchen appliances because one of them had stopped operating, and the entire suite is aging out. So I decided to replace it for the house and for the new owners. So the delivery of the new appliances was coming on that day, Saturday the 12th, last Saturday. I woke up feeling strange. I saw the two mirroring numbers. As the morning progressed, I then saw 1212, which again, another mirroring number. And I said again, "Hi, John. I see you. I see you're trying to get my attention today." The delivery was around 1 p.m., about an hour later. And as I'm sitting waiting for the delivery truck to come, I started to feel really strange. I started to get, and the best way to describe how this feels is anxiety, although it is not anxiety. This is a chaotic feeling in my solar plexus that stretches through or spreads through my whole torso. My heart it gets encapsulated in it or enveloped in it all the way down to my root chakra, and my whole torso feels chaotic. And I've had this feeling many, many, many other times during transformational phases in my awakening. So I'm vaguely familiar with it, but I have no context for it, which usually I have an understanding. But then I remembered, okay, it's a pink moon. I'm probably going to have something go on. Either something is going to be integrated or something is going to leave. And I knew that I might feel off. So as that hour between noon and 1 o'clock progressed, I started to feel a little out of control. And I started to think about the day my granddaughter was born and how chaotic that day was for me. Her energy was so powerful when she came into this world that I passed out in the hospital room when I went to see her for the first time. That's how chaotic this energy is. It enters my body with in such a force that if I'm not at my best energetically, it can take me completely out. And this is what this felt like. My knees started to feel weak. I started to feel weakness in my or numbness in my hands. And I said out loud, "Okay, guys," to my soul tribe. I said, "Just let me get through this delivery, and whatever this is, I'll lie down. But right now, I got these guys coming. I need to let them in. They have to replace my appliances. Please let me get through this." It was so chaotic. I walked outside into my front lawn and I started picking up sticks because I had to be outside. And I know that when I'm outdoors in a natural setting, it's easy for me to transmute negative energy or to integrate energy. So I went outside and I did feel a little bit better. In pulls the truck. The gentlemen start loading and unloading the appliances, unloading my appliances, loading the new ones in. It was two nice gentlemen. The first one introduced himself and then told me the name of the other gentleman who was outside. I was still in this very chaotic energy. I sat behind me on that couch. I sat right there. My kitchen is right here. So they were working in my kitchen, and I sat on the couch with my head down because I was so intensely disrupted by this energy. And the gentleman in the kitchen who was working, was a really nice guy, he looked up at me and said, "I'm from a city nearby." And he said the name of the city, which I won't say. But they called me up here to help with installations because they have so many. "I've been here for a week now," he said. I said, "Oh, that's really interesting." A thought crossed my mind in that moment that I didn't verbalize because I was so into this feeling of stress in my body. I thought immediately because the city that he mentioned is the city where my twin flame lives. Okay, random fact. He mentions the city's name. My first thought is, "Oh, have you ever heard of this company, which is my twin flame's company, the company he owns?" But I didn't say it out loud. And he went on with his work and they finished the installation. They took out the old appliances. They put them in the garage for me because my daughter is going to use them. And as they were leaving, I just had this weird inspiration. And I walked up and I said, "Hey, why don't you guys take a gemstone? I have a bunch of them in a wooden plate in my kitchen." I said, "Take a gemstone for good luck." And the one gentleman walked right past the other guy. But the one who introduced himself to me, the one who spoke to me about where he was from, was very excited to pick up a stone. And he picked up a tiger's eye with an imprint of a cocopelli on it. And he was very excited and he said, "Thank you." And they left. Okay, that all happened. So when they left, I cleaned up just a little bit, but I was so intensely disrupted by this energy. I went outside and I took a walk. I knew if I was out in nature that this is a way for my body to recalibrate to my center, for me to navigate these really intense and energetic events. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, pink moon, but why? I started to think, but why was it so intense right before these guys came over? What is the connection? And this is something you have to understand, uh, that there's nothing random. And on a twin flame destined journey, which I'm on, and this has been made very clear to me, there is nothing that goes on in my life these days that is random, that is coincidental. And this is true for most of us. But for me, where I am in this incredible journey, it is absolutely true. So I was reasoning as I'm walking, well, why did this happen right before these guys came over? And why was it still so intense? And it really is until right now that I'm walking that this intense feeling, this disruption is starting to leave my body. I finished my walk and this just stayed in my mind. I came home and I had to go to the grocery store. I got ready to go and I'm driving to the grocery store and it just went whammo. It hit me. I realized in a moment what they were doing there. And it was the most extraordinary thing. By the time I got to the grocery store, which is about a 15-minute drive, I sat in the parking lot in absolute awe of what I now knew. As I was driving, I realized what had happened. That the gentleman who came to deliver my appliances, particularly the tall gentleman who spoke to me and took the Kokopelli stone, was not just delivering my appliances, but he was delivering an energetic connection. He was delivering one end of the access point between our worlds that was needed in order for us to meet in the physical. How do I know this? Because I've been told to trust my intuitive channel, to trust my body. One thing that I know when these types of things happen, when I receive these on-demand downloads, basically these energetic ideas, these intuitive revelations, is when something is very impactful, it causes me to be emotional. As soon as I thought about this possibility that this gentleman delivered an energetic connection that he had to do in person, I started to cry. And I knew that emotional reaction was my body validating what my heart now knew. By the time I got to the grocery store, I couldn't move. I was sitting in absolute awe. I just knew that this was true. Okay, so the rest of the day goes on. I go to sleep that night. I wake up the next morning and I start to doubt. I said, you know what? That probably wasn't what I thought it was. That's wild. How could I know that? How could I be witness to that in real time? And I started to realize that, you know what, maybe, the brain comes in and wants to reason. Why did that happen? Truly, you're just going to believe that? You're not going to question anything? And I've been warned about this many, many times, to not allow doubt to obscure what my body knows. And this is my training, my intuitive training. This is part of me reconnecting with my intuition and then it becoming a superpower. And that's exactly what it has become, and it is becoming. Just to back up a little bit, the evening of the 12th, the night of the full moon, the day of this delivery and all of this, I received a reading that I was intuitively drawn to about how I was receiving in real time that what was described as a radical ascension. So it's basically an event, an energetic event that is brought into my body by the cyclical lunar cycle and this very powerful event of a pink full moon. So that I knew there was meaning to the full moon. I didn't understand exactly what it was. I had put pieces of it together, but that evening it confirmed for me that not only is this a regular special lunar event, but for me it delivered an extraordinary upgrade. It was described as a spiritual promotion, where my third eye and my crown chakra were being exploded. And basically what that meant was I am going to have more and more access to source wisdom and energy, and my third eye is expanded even farther, which broadens my conceptual understanding of the universe. And this is not something that I can learn in books. It's not something that somebody told me. It's not something that I have to validate externally. There's no logical reason for me to know this. And I've been warned over and over again, don't allow that doubt or anyone else's inquiry or doubt to lessen what you know. Because you know what you know. This is intuitive. It's not garnered from any physical source of knowledge. It is a non-physical source of wisdom. So that validated the event that I went through. So by the time I woke up the next morning, I thought, well, That probably really wasn't what I thought it was, because I understand from last night's reading that this was a really powerful ascension for me. So maybe I was conflating what I thought with what was going on. And as soon as I said that, I said out loud, I said, or is this me letting go of doubt? Because this pink moon was about letting go of that which does not serve you. So I understood in a moment that I was verbalizing what I needed to verbalize, which was the acknowledgement of the doubt that I was feeling. And as soon as I said out loud, or is this just doubt, I understood that I was acknowledging it and then releasing it. And in that moment, I was flooded with absolute confidence that what I intuited was absolutely true. And not only did I realize that what I had experienced was absolutely true, but I had an additional realization about how this energetic connection was going to be completed. I knew in that moment that when the gentleman took that rock, that gemstone with him, put it in his pocket, and drove back to the city that he lives in, which is 3 hours away from me, that he was completing this energetic connection. He brought me the first end of the energetic connection. He walked it right into my house. He connected with me verbally. He looked into my eyes. That connection was made. That connected me and my twin flame on one end. When he took that stone and brought it back to his hometown, which is where my twin flame lives, no coincidence, he delivered the other end, or completed that circle, that connection, that access point between worlds. So what happened last Saturday was that connection, that access point was established. So John and I can meet in the physical world. This is how mystic and magical and miraculous my life is. This is how I live every day. There is no random event. There is nothing that is coincidental anymore. And of course, this was validated again with a message that you are to trust absolutely what you feel, even if it's just a whisper. That is how powerful my intuitive channel is becoming, and it's growing every day. And this celestial event last Saturday was a massive upgrade in that direction. So I knew absolutely that this is what had happened. I had no doubt at all that this connection, this astrological event, this cycle of energy that was so powerful that delivered this spiritual promotion, also delivered this incredible connection. That's how powerful these celestial cycles are to us in this world, in our bodies, and how we grow and evolve. We have help from everything. I refer to the celestial bodies as my radiant family. They nourish and expand me, and they inform me by sending me photon rays and these credible energetic cycles. It is just an extraordinary way to live, to see life this way. And every day that expands more and more and more. That's the first part of the story. The second part of the story is just as extraordinary. And this is all part of the Plan B contingency work. This is all part of making sure that my twin flame and I meet in the physical, and that my twin flame is allowed to have the time and space he needs for this transformative phase that he's about to enter once him and I meet. So all the original orchestration for our meeting originally is off the table. So my soul family has been working diligently to create a new plan for everything that's meant to happen in our lives. John and I were supposed to be together by now. We were supposed to be drawn naturally to New Zealand, where we would live the rest of our lives out together, working on our mission together, which the two of us needed to be together in order to do. He is the materialist. I'm the spiritualist. I am activating spiritual gifts and dormancies within him. He is activating gifts and dormancies around the material world in me. So the key to me being materially successful in the world is my twin flame, John, as I am key for him now going into his awakening phase and being able to experience his life as his ethereal self. This is part of his mission as well as mine. So as we're together, I'm unlocking his spirituality. He's unlocking my material success, and that is when I am meant to succeed materially after we meet. From what I understand, that's still happening, but it's not going to happen the same way. We do need to meet physically. We need to look in each other's eyes. This is a transference of energy. This is a quantum entanglement that needs to take place. And once we go into our separation phase, which he's going to go into his awakening and I'm going to go on with my life, this is when I believe I'm going to be relocated. And I was always told that New Zealand is where where I'm going to be. And when I realized that I was not going to be with my twin flame, at least for the time being, I assumed I was still going there, that that's where my soul wants me to be. That's where the high vibrational environment supports my body and the remainder of my mission, where the remainder of my mission will be ignited. That's all changed. Not entirely, and let me explain. This is so extraordinary. I still have to stop and marvel at all that is happening. It is it's just extraordinary. That's the only word that I can use. This was just the night before last. I was drawn to a reading, and this is so interesting because I never looked at readings on my phone before. I always did it at my PC where I could take notes because I'm cataloging all of these readings in hopes of creating a book one day about the readings and about my soul family and all the guidance that I received from the very beginning of my awakening, which was the day or the week, I should say. It wasn't exactly the same day, I don't think, of the hospital stay where I finally was physically separated from my karmic ex-husband to today and beyond. It's a catalog of over 300 readings so far that have been instrumental in guiding me to where I sit right now, and is currently extraordinarily instrumental in making sure that I know what's coming and how to navigate it. So I find this reading. This was the night before last, and it is about the wealthy man again. It is about this is just amazing, about moving to this new location. And I've talked about the wealthy man. I did an episode about it. The wealthy man is a new element in the plan B, or the contingency plan, of me and my twin flame, because we are not together at this point. We are still separated. Certain things still need to happen. I still need to be relocated. It's part of my mission. I can't wait for that part anymore. It's time for me to go. This is why I'm inspired to get my house ready for sale, and all these things are in place for that. And so I'm listening to the reading, and it's talking about this new location, and it says it's going to be a city that pops up that you've never been before, and to be open. And I said, okay, I'm open. I believe it's New Zealand. I don't know where exactly I'm going, and that's fine. I'm ready. And then I remember saying and thinking, I said it out loud after the reading. I said, it doesn't matter where I go. And I've said this before, wherever you want me to go, I'm happy to go. I don't care if it's, a place that isn't appealing or a tourist attraction. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a magical island in the middle of nowhere, which of course is an extraordinary gift, to live somewhere like that. I said, wherever my mission takes me, wherever my soul wants me to go as an instrument of her purpose here, just send me there. It doesn't matter. And I went to bed last night not really thinking much about it, and I woke up yesterday morning, and I was looking at my social media. I check it in the morning and in the evening. I don't post anything personal, so I'm really just looking for messages from my soul family, because my one social media platform, and I only have two that I work with, and I post my episodes and my articles. I apologize, there's three, including YouTube, where I post my video episodes and my episodes with Igor. So I'm looking through my social media, and I see a very technical post about the Schumann resonance. And this is something that has been coming up in social media for me over and over and over. The Schumann resonance, and I'm not going to say this correctly because I'm not an expert, but basically it is an electromagnetic or geomagnetic, or both, I don't remember, like mantle of energy between the Earth's surface and the ionic plate or mantle or something like that. It is a living and breathing energetic layer between the Earth and the atmosphere. And it goes through different magnifications depending on celestial events and solar events, geomagnetic events like this, like the sun flares and things like that. I don't know much more about it, except for I keep getting posts about it. So I realized that this is something that I need to pay attention to. And what I ended up learning is that because I have grown so much intuitively and I become so sensitive to energy around me that I'm now picking up on this Schumann resonance, that my body is affected by this energy. So when it flares, I feel it in my body. So I understand that. And I started to read about it was about geomagnetic energy on the earth. It was about the earth being discovered by science, as metaphysics is always known, as a being, and how the certain elements of her body represent the meridians of the body. And there's so much more. It was a very, very long, very technical post. And I was just drawn to read the entire thing, which is unusual for me. I read the whole thing and I got to a point where it's talking about this latitude, this sacred latitude, and I think it's 19.46 degrees, which is the same distance from the equator on both sides. And it is a very sacred point on the earth, as far as the earth as being a being and the earth for consciousness. And this sacred point, and I expected to see that it was in New Zealand, was not in New Zealand. There were three of them that were listed, but the first one is the one that resonated. Hawaii. It is Mount Mauna Kea, I think is what it's called, which is a volcano, which is sitting on one of the most highly charged, high vibrating pieces of land in the world. There are a few of them. I saw Hawaii, and of course, it made me think of my friend Igor Siberia, who I collaborate on a podcast called Breath and Voice Chronicles, who I met very serendipitously last October. He lives in Hawaii. And I've talked to him a few times about where he lives. I'm very curious. And I found myself over the last couple of months thinking about Hawaii. And I was even talking to my daughter. I said, you know, Hawaii is really beautiful. Igor was telling me about it. And my daughter says, oh, I would love to live in Hawaii. And I said, but the climate is warm. It's tropical. I said, New Zealand's more attuned to my body. It's cooler, less humid, all those things. And so we kind of dismissed the idea, but I ended up asking Igor when I was talking to him on the phone, I said, what's the climate like there? What are the summers like? I had this curiosity and I'm like, he told me, I don't even remember what he said. Let it go. This was a few weeks ago. And so I see Hawaii as this location, and I read the rest of the post. It really didn't make an impact on me except for to think of Igor. I put my phone down and I started doing my energy exercises, which I've gotten back to doing because they really help center me. And this last energetic episode was so powerful. It was honestly a full week that I felt really off, so much so that I told my daughter I might not be able to be as available because my energy is so low. Went through such an exhaustive period after this spiritual promotion. It's very similar to very early on in my awakening. I didn't know I could still experience something that intense. I was a little concerned I'd have the energy to watch my granddaughter. It turned out fine. I feel much better now. But as I was doing my energy exercises, literally just a few moments into them, I had a download. I knew something that I could not know. And this, of course, is Source, or my soul family, nudging me towards a realization. I had the reading last night that said a city's going to pop up that you've never lived in before, and to be open. And then I woke up in the morning looking at Hawaii and Mauna Kea as this sacred space on the planet, which is very similar to New Zealand. I described that New Zealand, it sits on top of an underwater mountain range of volcanoes. And for the same reason, vibrates at a very unique frequency, a frequency that is aligned with how I now vibrate, and is really going to be instrumental in unlocking my potential. That's how incredible and how important vibration and energy is to us. It's not just weather and storms and celestial movement. It dictates our lives. It's such a beautiful thing to realize because it lets my brain relax, and I can let go of logic, and I can truly just intuit what I need to know. This was another amazing download. In a moment, I knew that I was no longer going to New Zealand. In a moment, I knew that I was going to be relocated to Hawaii. I just knew it. And I sat there and thought, wow. And then, of course, my brain's like, but, yeah, and I'm like, nope, 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 nope. You're not needed right now. And I remembered my training. Don't listen to your brain. It's going to doubt. So I sat there for a few moments and I started to get emotional and I said, there it is. My body reacts, validating what I know by becoming emotional. I started to cry. And then in another moment or two, I got another download and it said very clearly that this is likely temporary, that I'm being moved to a place that is more accessible to my girls. They're not moving me all the way across the world to New Zealand just yet. That I'm going to be moved to Hawaii, which is another isolated island in the Pacific. It's not quite as in the middle of nowhere as New Zealand is. It is a volcanic heart. It has a volcanic heart, as does New Zealand, which is a very important element. And I'm going to be moved there, and I know someone there. Igor lives there. So I knew instantaneously that this may be very temporary, but it's up to me. Because once my twin flame goes into his transformative phase, there is a very good possibility that he is going to realize that him and I are connected cosmically and that he is going to understand, and I put it this way before, that I am his queen and he is my king, and we are twins in this world meant to live this lifetime out together. That is, if he awakens and his vibration rises to the point where he can align with that, which is the key part of that. So if that happens, if he goes through his transformative phase and he has the realization that we are meant as twins, and he comes back into my life in a very intentional way, there is an opportunity for that to still happen and for us to naturally move to New Zealand together to live out our lives, which is where we were meant to go. So I knew instantaneously that this was still a possibility, that this was an intermediary or a contingency location for the plan B orchestration of my mission and of his. So I knew in a moment that the whole scope of this new idea, and as soon as I realized that this was temporary, I started to sob. I mean, I was crying and moaning. If you were outside my house, you would have thought somebody was murdering me. It was intense. I was crying and sobbing, and I was inconsolable. But at the same time, I was laughing. It was joyful. I knew that my soul family was delivering to me through this more powerful, intuitive tool that is being opened more and more every day by these energetic cycles. That yes, it's true. We're relocating you to Hawaii. Not only so you don't have to go so far away from your daughters, but you can still be in an isolated place. You can still go through the activations that are necessary for me to reach my potential, spiritual potential. I still need John for my material potential, but that is going to be catalyzed when we meet. He is the key to unlocking my material potential. I am the key to unlocking his spiritual. That's how this works. That's how twins work. So even though we're not going to have a relationship potentially in the beginning, the connection, the energetic connection will create this entanglement, which will activate these gifts in the two of us. So from what I understand, that will be the gift that I received from him during this possibly brief encounter. And when I say brief, I don't know if it's going to be one meeting or if we'll create a relationship together that won't potentially last very long. I have no idea. I'm not given that fine a detail. It's above my pay grade. But that we will exchange these gifts. And when I am immediately relocated, because I'm meant to be out of his vicinity, our magnetism is going to be very powerful, and it's going to be difficult for me to resist reaching out because he's my twin. It's like having a physical twin who you know is on the other side of a door and you can't speak to them. When you're drawn and you're telepathic and all these things intuitively and magnetically are going on below the surface that are not part of your brain, that draw is so powerful that I'm going to be physically removed from his vicinity to this new location at that time, I believe, and where I will start to receive opportunities to share my gifts because he has activated the material dormancies in my DNA. That's what he's doing. That's what we do for each other. We activate dormancies in our DNA. The same way the crystalline water in our body, which is activated by photon light or vibration, activates or awakens dormancies in our DNA without a twin flame connection. This is how we evolve. When we learn and we grow, and this is the key part, when we don't ignore our discomfort, our trauma, when we ignore it, we push it back in our body. We store it in our bodies and it becomes disease. Disease becomes disease, and disease becomes cancer or disability or mental disability. We cannot hold on to it. We're meant to transmute it. And this was something I learned just this morning from a serendipitous post that I saw, that I shared because it's so powerful, is that as humans, we're meant to be on the earth. We are an earthly byproduct. We are a naturally occurring plant, animal, insect on the planet. We are just not an insect or plant or an animal. We are human, but we're still an organic organism that is birthed by the earth. So when we disconnect ourselves from the earth, we disconnect ourselves from our ability to heal and to grow and to embody ourselves. So when we build skyscrapers and we live off the ground and we live in artificial environments where we don't open the windows and we live, completely encapsulated in steel and brick and mortar, we are disconnected from our mother. We are disconnected from the healing that is naturally available to us right outside our door. I've talked about this many, many, many times. I spend as much time outdoors in my bare feet as I possibly can, because every time I step on the earth, my energy is naturally calibrated to our mother. She takes away inflammation from the body. Inflammation is the most powerful cause of disease. I sleep on an earthing mat, which is connected to a cord, which is grounded in a grounding outlet, which allows me that energetic connection to mom all night long as I sleep. I am advised as an empathetic or empathic person who gathers energy from other people unwittingly. Whenever I'm in crowds or around other people, I ingest other people's energy. In order for me to release that, I have to go outdoors and transmute it. That's how I have to transmute it. Or I sleep alone, which is another way that I do it, which is why I don't believe I'll ever sleep with anyone. I'll ever sleep through the night in a bed with anyone, because it is a sacred space for me. And this has been advised by my soul team to protect, because as an empathic person, as a highly empathic person, I am subject to everyone else's energy. This is one of the reasons why I need to be isolated most of the time. I'm described as both the hermit and the igniter. I go out into the world and I gather energy from others who are dealing with trauma. I gather that and I transmute it for them. This is what empathetic people do. Highly empathetic, powerful empaths. It's a mission. It's a calling. It's something we're designed to do. And I have to release that energy. We all have to release that energy, whether we receive it in large degrees or not. Whether we are traumatized by our lives or people or circumstances, situations, grief, shame, guilt, depression, all of those things are stored as trauma in our body. And if it's not transmuted through connection with earth, our mother, it stores, and that storing of that trauma creates disease. It's how it works. This is why I went off healthcare. And I was guided to do that. And I was very hesitant at first. I'm like, why wouldn't I just keep it? It ensures that if something's wrong and I go to the doctor, it's paid for. Why would I do that? And of course I understood, because it's not needed anymore. I do suffer aches and pains, but nothing is chronic. I go outside and I stand on the earth with intention. I go by the water. Water channels electromagnetic energy more quickly through the body. Our body is 70% or more water. That's what it does. I stand in water on the earth in my bare feet, and that is like a healing session. It's like going to a specialist for a Reiki session or whatever metaphysical uh, modality you choose. It is the same thing. So I choose to use our mother, who is my natural mother. If you can look beyond the physical, if you can look beyond our physical parents, who are also organic organisms of the earth, they birthed us into the world, but our real mother is the earth. And they're learning more and more and more through science that earth is a being. She is a sentient being. She is a nurturing, birthing being, and we are her children. It is as simple as that. There was another post I received just this morning. Of course, this is not an accident. These are all synchronistic events because I was getting on the microphone today to talk, so this is something I meant to mention. They're finding out through seismic data that the Earth has a heartbeat. That every 26 seconds, there is a natural rhythmic vibration that occurs without fail. And of course, I'm not sure what the technical name for the person who does the seismic data collection, a geologist, I don't know what it is, but those who are investigate seismic patterns and rhythms they found this. The metaphysical community has always known that this is a heartbeat. We refer to, well, I shouldn't say we, I just learned this morning, that they found her heartbeat. And that, yes, you can doubt it and you can try to explain it with other phenomenon. There was one that said that it's the underwater wave cycle that hits the tectonic plates and that causes a reverberation that could certainly cause that. I said, yeah, but how is it every 26 seconds without fail? I mean, you can go ahead and try to use your brain, again, the beautiful tool of this physical existence that needs to learn its place, or we need to learn to put the brain beyond its logic, because the heartfelt, intuitive existence of the 5D defies logic. And if you need to use logic as your divining rod, as your navigation, you are not going to be able to embrace, you're not going to be able to integrate and navigate the way we're truly meant to navigate as master navigators, as wayfinders in the world through our intuitive channel and our heartfelt desire. This is how we express our essence. This is how we become a beacon in the world. This is how we heal humanity. Not by going out and changing other people. Impossible. You can inspire. You can set an example, but you will never change those who are not ready to change. The thing that is missing when we try to change other people is embodiment. In order for people to change, they need to embody it. So it has to be a personal journey. And that personal journey is inward. So if you want to help the world heal, if you want to help the cosmic reality of life, as we are an example for the rest of the universe, all of the other species of life, and there are over 200, are watching the Earth as an example of the ability to transform from low vibrating humans to high vibrating cosmic neighbors. We are being watched by all over the universe, all over every galaxy, every planet, every star is watching us to see how we manage ourselves in this very powerful ascension period that we're in. We're moving into the Aquarian era, out of the Piscean era. We're moving into the Aquarian era, out of the Piscean era. The Pisces era, moving into Aquarius. Pisces was the masculine era that became toxified. Aquarian is the feminine. It's not female, male. It is the qualities of the feminine that are now taking over, not predominantly, which is what happened with the Piscean era, that the masculine energy became dominant and toxified, and it wanted ownership, and it pushed other people off, and it wanted to take. That's toxified masculinity. That era is now over. We are entered into the Aquarian era, where unity and nurturing and inclusivity and heartfelt, inspired action is meant to be cultivated. And those of us who are out there doing this publicly, guided to do so, are showing what's possible. We're not able to cause this in other people. We may inspire or ignite, but it is up to that person to embody. And if you want to change, we have to change individually. So if you imagine a light board, what's that game when we were kids, where they use the light pegs to create a picture? You're one of those light pegs. And that picture cannot be constructed without all of us being lit up and placed on that board. So our job is to know ourselves to the degree that we ascend out of our learning. And we do this by looking inward and examining when we're triggered by someone, or when we're upset, or we're depressed, or we're angry, or we feel shame or guilt. Why do I feel this way? Instead of pushing it down and causing this disease and this trauma, you sit in a quiet space and you just examine it. And you say, I'm not going to be afraid of you. What is it? And then you allow a natural mechanism in your body to engage. And I call this the emotional baggage handler. I wrote an article about it on my website. I also did a podcast about it called the emotional baggage handler. It's a natural mechanism in the body that when you allow it to engage, and you do this with intention, by sitting in quiet, by sitting in your own company, by not fearing your own feelings and thoughts, allowing them all to be exactly what they are, by letting go. The only way to embody is to let go. Let go of all that you feel, think, and know as your identity. None of it is true. It's all an absolute illusion created by the lens of our existence, the lens that we wear that is colored by our beliefs, by our cultural traditions, even by our experiences, our traumas, our pain, our grief, our shame, our guilt. It all drags down our vibration, and it blocks all the chakras from opening. So you have to go into yourself, even if it's uncomfortable. And the first few times it is. I cried more than I didn't initially, but I was given the time and space to do it, and I knew it was time for me to do it. And every time I allowed myself to go into that darkness, into that void where the demons and the dragons lived, where they controlled my life, I was unconscious of it, but they controlled my life. Whenever you met me in the 3D, I was a dragon or a demon. I wasn't who I was. I wasn't Sophia. I was a version of me that was hidden or taken over by my demons and dragons because of the trauma and the guilt and the shame that I lived in. This is what we have to overcome. This is what we have to break through. And we do it by first identifying that it's true. We don't hide from it. We don't medicate ourselves so we don't feel it. We don't create addictions and toxicity in our lives so we don't have to deal with what's in our bodies, in our hearts. It's not toxic waste, my friend. It is the key to your liberation. And I'm telling you this as someone who went through it, because I know exactly what it does. You spend a lot of time upset. You spend a lot of time contemplating your existence, but every contemplation, every realization, every epiphany is another surrender. It's a mini surrender. It's a micro surrendering of your ego. And every micro surrender builds to the master letting go. And when you finally get to that point where you realize that you have let go of 90% of all the illusion, you just go, and it falls off. The matrix falls away. You no longer need to navigate this extraordinarily difficult phase of your evolution. And then you start to learn your ethereal self, which is a vast, expansive being. And it releases you, untethers you from everything that ever inhibited your growth. It untethers you from the constructs that are meant to keep us believing things that aren't true, that we are small, inconsequential life forms. We are galactic beings. There's so much that you learn, and it's constant and it's evolutionary. Every moment is an evolution. There are so many versions of ourselves. Every time we learn something new and we accept something or we surrender, we let go, we ascend. And every ascension is a new version of ourselves. Every new version of ourselves creates a new spectrum of possible outcomes, of possible paths, of possible destinies in our lives. The higher we go in this ascension, each time we create this new version by letting go of an old version of ourselves, an old belief, an old trauma, an imprint of pain. It has to be released energetically through an emotion. Your emotions are the vehicle for this. If you don't look at the article, listen to the episode, The Emotional Baggage Handler. I detail it. I learned this. I didn't create this. I discovered this, and I documented it years ago. This natural mechanism in our body that transmutes low vibrating energy, which is trauma, pain, negativity, depression, all the things that we medicate ourselves so we don't feel. You need to go through the pain. This is our dark forest. This is the dark night of the soul, as it's known in spiritual terms. You have to walk, navigate, and go through this incredibly dark side of us. This darkness is why we become so brilliant. It is the yin and yang. It is not we get rid of our darkness and now we're bright. It's no, the darkness contrasts the light. It is half of us. It is not to be discarded or undervalued. It is part of our being. It is a necessary part of our being. It is our polarity. Darkness and light are polarity. They're polars, opposites of each other. Everything is polarity. Female, male is polarity. Breathing in and out is polarity. The ebbing and flowing of the ocean is polarity. The breathing of the earth is polarity. It's all necessary. It's not to be discarded. It is just to be healed. And then it becomes part of the brightness. It becomes the reason why the brightness is so brilliant. It is extraordinary. And then you start to live with a knowing that you are part of something so much bigger and you are never alone. I have been almost completely isolated for nearly 4 years now. I should say 3 years because I worked for a year of that. I retired out of my business 3 years ago, just about now. For the last 3 years, and even then I was isolated. I would go home alone. I lived alone. I have not really had much contact with any other humans at all. Very brief and very occasionally. And in the last year, almost not at all. And the reason why this happens and why you shouldn't fear it is because this is Spirit's way. And you can call it Spirit, your soul team, Mother Universe, however you want to, God, whatever you want to call it. This is the way the universe focuses you. Without all the external stimulation and disruption, other people's opinions about what you're going through can activate your logic, and the brain takes over and you forget what the heart and the body is telling you. So you are, and I can say from my experience, I won't say you, I have been shed of every connection I've ever had in my life except for my daughters who are part of my journey. They are soulmates. Every other human being that I have ever had a connection with is gone. I don't speak to anybody on the phone regularly. I don't go anywhere. I don't have any hobbies. I don't do anything at all. And it gets to a point where I'm like, is this going to change? I understand because I am guided very particularly about what's happening in my life. But you can wonder, why am I alone all the time? Why, you might even feel lonely. I don't ever feel lonely because all I have to do is look out my window. And every time I look out my window, I say, "Hi, beautiful." because I know the trees, the grass, the soil, the insects, the birds, the animals, the sky, the planets, the earth are all my family. And I feel more connected and that I belong somewhere when I'm outside than I ever have with any human in my life, besides my girls who are always excluded. So this is spirit focusing you so you can tune out the white noise and you can sharpen your ability to hear from here. When you start to receive this intuition, it's very much a whisper. And your test is to trust it. If you discount it, you start over. Okay, give me another test. This is our whole life. You're tested constantly with situations, with interactions, with circumstances. This happened to you. How do you respond? Well, I can react. And every time I react, I go lower in my vibration. So that same thing's going to happen again. It's cyclical. It's going to come right back. Here's the lesson again. What are you going to do this time? Okay, now am I going to react? I don't have to react. What are my other options? Let me examine that. And then you start to examine yourself and you realize there's another way to go. You don't have to react. And before you know it, you become non-reactive. Nothing shakes you. It doesn't matter what it is. And I've been tested. I went 4 days without electricity where I worried about my sump pump years before. Oh my gosh, my house is going to flood. Last year in August, we had a huge, like they called it a 30-year storm that knocked out the power for 4 days. I was being tested. My masculine side was being tested. Am I going to call for help and make sure somebody is here every minute to watch that? Am I going to watch it? I realized what was happening. I realized it was a test. And I said, I'm going to trust. And I did. And I went 4 days and that sump pump never even got close to flooding. And all I could think about in years before was, oh my gosh, what if it floods? If it rains too much and it stops working? And the power has gone off several times over the years, but never for 4 days. I knew in my heart that it was a test. Are you going to trust or are you going to react? I did check it. And if I saw it, if I would have seen it raising to a point where it needed attention, I would have taken care of it. But I didn't react and expect the worst. And that was the most beautiful lesson that I have learned in a long time. I don't have to expect the worst. And this is a flipping of the wiring that I used to be a victim of. Always expecting the worst. 99.9% of what we expect to happen never happens. Think about that. So you learn to be non-reactive, and in being non-reactive, you understand the potential of this intuitive channel. How do I feel? Do I feel calm? Yeah. Well, then it's good. You learn to trust your body because your body is an instrument telling you what you need to know. My body now tells me through my emotions if my intuitive downloads are true. I realized yesterday that I'm not going to New Zealand, I'm going to Hawaii. And I immediately started to cry. I knew that it was true. This is my body validating me because this instrument is such a refined tool now. I don't need anything else. I have Mother Earth. I have my body, which is connected now to Source as this open channel. My heart tells me what to do. My inspiration causes me to act. That's it. So this is a difference between living in a mind-focused, ego-driven existence where you're always making effort, you're always bumping into walls, you're always getting hurt or traumatized or disappointed, to a heartfelt existence where your higher self and your soul tribe are guiding you always. Absolutely always. I am so excited, I can barely contain myself. But underneath that excitement is the stillness that I cannot describe. It is an absolute rock of Gibraltar. It is a mountain of stillness in my body. This is the foundation that you cultivate through this self-examination and the purging of emotional debris in your body and the trusting of your intuitive knowing. When you transcend the mind and you just go whoop right here and start living from the heart, because the intuition, if you look at the chakra system, the crown, I never knew anything about chakras before. I swear to God. This is a novice who is given what she needs as she goes, but I know the crown chakra receives divine information, and if we're not open through the chakras, it doesn't go anywhere else. It just falls off like water off a duck's back. It can't permeate. We have to clear and open these motors in our body. The big ones for me were the throat chakra. The lies that I told myself blocked this chakra. When I went into my awakening, I started to trust my body and my intuitive channel. I released that brace on my neck that wouldn't allow me to tell the truth. Now my mission is to tell the truth. My sacral chakra is another area that I needed to heal. My feeling of power, empowerment in my life. And my root chakra, where my security is, where my security comes from. I had to do that for myself. I was always looking outward for that, through relationships, through marriages, to feel safe. I didn't understand that it was me that could make myself feel safe. So when I said in a couple of episodes or last episode that I get to be the queen that goes to rescue her king on the battlefield, I mean that. I don't need to be rescued. I rescued myself. I don't need to be made to feel safe. I feel safe within myself. And because I have ascended out of all of these lies and illusions, the universe is now aligned with me on every corner. Everywhere I look is a magical alignment that is bringing a blessing of abundance into my life. Because my heart is emanating this unconditionally loving vibration, which is attracting unconditionally loving energy back to me. This is how it works. This is the cycle of energy that we create. The universe doesn't listen to what you say because you're lying. It listens to who you are. That's where the truth is. And that's where you have to go to figure out who you are. So when I say my mission is to know who I am, and a very beautiful young gentleman on a post this morning or yesterday told me this, and I'm repeating it because, of course, it wasn't an accident that I saw this. He described this as, I'm here to discover who I am. That is my purpose. What I do outwardly in the world is just an expression of that. And the more we are in our essence, the more we are in our true, heartfelt, centered, calibrated coherence with our soul's energy, the more our essence is expressed naturally through whatever we are drawn to do. For me, it's speaking and writing. For you, it might be art, it might be dance, it might be education, it might be agriculture, it could be anything. Whatever is heartfelt for you is your true whale song. And when we sing our whale song into the world, we harmonize with the highest vibrations and we actually heal life. We become that beacon. We become that light on the board. And once we all are lights on that board, that beautiful picture of the earth illuminated will emerge. That's how we heal the earth, one heart at a time, our own hearts. We don't try to heal others. It is tempting, especially as an empathetic person. Trust me, I know. But the one thing I had to learn as an empathetic person who always wanted to bridge that for other people, I almost sacrificed myself doing that, is people have to embody their own evolution. We can't guide them to it. So I was able to let that go, and that shed another layer of the illusion off of me, and I was able to ascend even higher, creating this vibrancy in my body that now is attracting this extraordinary new location, that now is attracting this wealthy man or person who's going to relocate me and unlock my potential in the world, where I'm attracting a soulmate who is coming in to support me on this next phase of my journey. This will not be my twin flame, not for now. but it will be a loving connection that will be support for me as I walk into this next very important phase of my mission, which will take place in this other location where my potential will be unlocked. It is an extraordinary story. And I'm so grateful to have you here taking this journey with me. I feel so honored to share it this way. I feel so honored to have been inspired so early on, 3 years ago almost, to start this podcast. I had no idea why I was doing it. So the message is don't let the brain dictate the heart. The heart knows. We just have to clear the way, the emotional debris out of the way, so the heart can connect to the crown through all the chakra system and create inspired action in our lives and create a trust and a faith in our connection to source energy, to the mother universe, who has never left us for a moment. You can call her God, you can call her spirit, whatever you want to call her. We are connected. We are part of a tapestry of life that is never alone. This is what we learn when we leave the matrix. I'm going to leave you with that. I know I've kept you a while today, and I thank you so much for listening. I'm so grateful for your presence. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. If you are listening to the audio version of this, I neglected to mention these before. I will be doing video versions going forward. This has turned out to be the medium that is attuned to what I'm doing. So they are only available on video on YouTube. My channel is at Postcards from a Soul. Again, I appreciate you if you're listening or watching, and I will see you again with an update as soon as possible. Thank you.